Hi guys, welcome to Grammar and Writing Lesson 33. Let's start with our vocabulary review. We have a suffix this time. Remember, a suffix goes at the end of a word. The prefix comes before, before the word, and then the suffix comes at the end of the word. So our suffix focus is phobia. Again, we're back to Greek. So a phobia is an irrational fear, something that the person is deeply afraid of. And there may or may not be a good reason for this. The irrational is when there's really not a good reason. But sometimes you can have a phobia of something for a good reason. But usually a phobia is something that's a fear that someone has almost like from birth, basically. It's just a fear that you have. So we're going to talk about three fears, three phobias. The first one is hydrophobia. Hydrophobia. Can anyone guess what that is? Hydrophobia? Think about hydro. This is an unnatural dread. Dread is another word for fear. An unnatural dread of water. So if someone hates to go swimming, it doesn't matter if it's the beach or the pool, they don't even like taking baths very much, they're in and out of the shower. That's an unnatural dread of water. You're terrified of water. That's hydrophobia. So it's more than just not liking to go swimming or being afraid of sharks in the ocean so you don't like to go to the beach. No. This is just being afraid of water. You get near water, doesn't matter if it's in a cup or in a pool, and you start shaking. That's hydrophobia. For example, the kitten's hydrophobia was innate. So cats, they do have hydrophobia. They don't like to be in the water. They don't like getting really, really wet. You know, they take a shower by licking themselves. So cats have a bit of hydrophobia. Remember that word innate? We've had that as a vocabulary word. What is that word? What does it mean? Remember, that means something that's inborn, something that's there from the time that a person has been born. So the kitten's hydrophobia, that's natural, it's innate. It was born with that fear of water. Agoraphobia. Maybe you've heard of this, maybe not. Agoraphobia. This is a fear of crowds and public places. Look at the first part of the word, agora. Remember we talked about in Greece, in the Greek cities, there were like 5 or 6 different parts to a Greek city. We had the amphitheater, the market, the agora. The agora was that large public place, remember? So agoraphobia is that fear of crowds and public places. Someone who is agoraphobic, they are going to stay away from where there's going to be lots of people. Sometimes they don't even, people who are severe agoraphobics, they don't go out of their own house because they hate being in large open spaces. They hate being with lots of people. They have an intense, intense fear. For example, the woman's agoraphobia made it impossible for her to shop in large malls. So to go where there's a large open space, where there's lots of people, no, too afraid. And our last one, claustrophobia. Claustrophobia. This is probably one of the most common phobias that have been heard of. So claustrophobia. What is claustrophobia? Think of like closet. It's the fear of narrow or enclosed places. So really small places, places that are closed up, being afraid of being in them. You feel like you're being crushed, like you're being suffocated. That's claustrophobia. Some people develop claustrophobia in elevators. So you may not be claustrophobic, but you start to feel claustrophobic once you get into an elevator and you're there for a while. Practice. Fill in the blank with the correct vocabulary word. Number 1. Because he nearly drowned as a puppy, Rover suffered from. So what fear would a puppy have after almost drowning? The suffix meaning irrational fear is a vendor selling hot dogs and peanuts at a baseball game could not have blank. So a vendor is someone who's selling something. A vendor selling hot dogs and peanuts at a baseball game could not have what? What fear would they not be able to have if they have to go out into a crowded place and sell stuff? Okay. People with blank feel uncomfortable in caves or mines. Okay. Wave us, places like that. What fear would make someone uncomfortable in that kind of a place? Okay, number 1 is hydrophobia. Because he nearly drowned as a puppy, Rover suffered from hydrophobia, the fear of water. The suffix meaning irrational fear is phobia. A vendor selling hot dogs and peanuts at a baseball game could not have agoraphobia because they're out in a big space with lots of people. So if they had agoraphobia, they would not be able to go there. People with claustrophobia feel uncomfortable in caves or mines because those are dark, narrow places. Okay, we're going to continue our sentence review, prepping you for your evaluation on next Friday. First of all, what is a fragment? Answer out loud. What is a fragment? A fragment is a sentence part that does not express a complete thought. So a sentence part that does not express a complete thought is a fragment. Fragments usually happen when you are writing quickly. For example, when you're writing your rough draft, because you're not really putting too much thought into your grammar, so you might accidentally miss that you're missing part of your thought to complete your sentence. Fragments should never appear in serious writing. So you have to go back and you have to find your fragments and you have to fix them. How do you correct a fragment? Remember, there are 2 ways. And answer out loud, then put it in your notes. Okay, here's way number 1. You rejoin it to the sentence from which it has been separated. So if your fragment is really just a part of the sentence that came before it or comes right after it, but you accidentally separated it with a period or something like that, you weren't really thinking about it, but really it goes with that sentence, just put it back together. Sometimes you need a comma to do that. I'll show you some examples in a minute. Here's your second way. Add the missing subject, predicate, or other words that will make it a complete thought. So whatever you're missing to make it complete, that's what you need to add. Let's look at some examples. Saeed, you just sent me your homework. Okay. Fragment. You girls stay here until we return. You girls stay here until we return. What makes this a fragment? Well, right here in this sentence, this is a sentence. You girls stay here. Your verb is stay. Who stays? Girls stay. But then right here, we just have a phrase, until we return. This is not a complete sentence. This word until makes this an incomplete thought. If this were standing alone, without the you girls stay here part, cross that out, until we return. Is that a complete thought? No. But it is complete if you join it with this first part, you girls stay here. How long do they need to stay? They need to stay until we return. You girls stay here until we return. So as a sentence, it would look like this. You girls stay here until we return. Okay, fragment. Racing across the field, the linebacker tackled the runner. Okay, the linebacker tackled the runner. That's a sentence. Your verb is tackled. Who tackled? Linebacker tackled. But look at this part. Racing across the field. If you just have this and you ignore this sentence and you just have racing across the field, is that a complete thought? No. Who's racing across the field? Why are they racing across the field? What's going on? You just have a phrase, racing across the field. But if you join it, racing across the field, comma, the linebacker tackled the runner. That makes sense. You need that comma because you do need to take a breath between these phrases, but racing across the field is a description of what the linebacker is doing. He is racing. So racing across the field describes your linebacker. With that sentence, it makes a complete thought. It makes sense, but it cannot stand alone. So check your sentences. Make sure that they can stand alone and make sense, that they are complete thought. That's why in your checklist it says to read each sentence by itself to see if it makes sense, if it can stand alone. Fragment. Won the spelling bee. Okay, what's this one missing? Your subject, right? Who won the spelling bee? I have no idea. Somebody had to win it, or something's going on here, but I don't know. My thought is not complete. So my sentence is that Jenny won the spelling bee. So who won? Jenny won. Now I have a complete thought. Fragment. The first expedition to circumnavigate the earth. Okay, this is long, so it looks like it should be a sentence, but we actually don't have a verb. The first expedition to circumnavigate the earth, what? What did they do? What happened? Who started it? What am I trying to say? So it should go something like this. The first expedition to circumnavigate the earth was begun by Ferdinand Magellan. All right. Now we're going to talk about run-ons. What is a run-on sentence? Two or more simple sentences written incorrectly as one sentence. So when you join two or more sentences together in a way that it looks like it's one sentence, but really it's not, you didn't join them correctly, then you have a run-on. There are ways to join two or more simple sentences, but you have to follow the rules. So what are 3 ways to correct run-ons? I want you to write those down in your notebook, and then we're going to check them. Okay, go ahead and pause your video to finish writing them down. I'm going to move on and say what they are. Okay, here we go. Number 1, add a comma and conjunction. You have to have both of those parts, a comma and conjunction, to correct a run-on. If you just have a comma, you still have a run-on. If you just have a conjunction, you still have a run-on. So you need to have both a comma and conjunction. Sometimes you have a run-on that's only connected by a comma, so add your conjunction in. Sometimes you just have the conjunction, so add your comma in, but make sure you have both. Number 2, add a semicolon. So this is instead of a comma and conjunction, you could just use a semicolon. This is stronger. And number 3, change it into 2 sentences. So you have a run-on, you can change it into 2 or more sentences. Separate the sentences instead of putting them all together. Let's look at some examples. Here's a run-on. Stars twinkle at night, planets do not. Why is this a run-on? Well, stars twinkle at night and planets do not are both complete thoughts. So really, they cannot be joined just by a comma. The comma is not strong enough. I have to join it another way. So the first way we talked about was to put in a comma and conjunction. So comma, but. Stars twinkle at night, comma, but planets do not. That sounds a little better. There's another way you can do it. Stars twinkle at night, semicolon, planets do not. So this is a bit longer of a pause than the comma. Stars twinkle at night, Planets do not. Or you could make them into two separate sentences. Stars twinkle at night. Planets do not. So those are three ways that you could correct this run-on. Let's look at the next one. The sun set majestically, then the moon rose. Well, the sun setting majestically is one thought. The moon rose is another thought. Then is not connecting them strongly enough because these are two complete thoughts. So I need to change them. I can first add a comma in conjunction. The sun set majestically, comma, and then the moon rose. The sun set majestically, and then the moon rose. Now we have to be careful when we use and then, but you can use it. When you're showing that something happened afterwards and it's a short sentence, you don't have another run-on with it, it's fine to use and then. But if you just say, the sun set majestically, and then this, and then this, and then this, that's too many and thens. You can use it sparingly like this in this situation. You could also use your semicolon. The sun set majestically, semicolon, then the moon rose. The sun set majestically, then the moon rose. You could also separate this into two separate sentences, but because of the then, it really does sound better when you make it a compound sentence instead. Okay, that is it. Now you have your homework. You need to complete Language Worksheet 2. So this looks very similar to Language Worksheet 1, but it says at the top, Language Worksheet 2. So you're going to be working with those sentences. If you have any questions, please let me know. That's your lesson today. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.